Hey, welcome to Go Ask Gabby, episode 4. So, the question this week is in the realm of, well, I'll just read you the question. How's that? We have the same arguments over and over and over again. It feels like I'm chasing my tail. A lot of energy is being spent, but we're getting nowhere. Actually, it's getting worse. How can we stop the downward spiral we are stuck in? This is a bit of a longer question that I condensed here. So I see this one a lot, and it's so normal. It's so human. Talk more about being human in a minute. It's so human, but not often helpful, right? We have the same arguments. We keep trying to stand our ground or stand up for ourselves or make our point or get our point across. And we think that logic or explaining ourselves or all sorts of other kinds of behavior, maybe not as healthy, are going to make a difference. They're going to give you the results, but that's not often the case. So I wrote down a few different tips and referencing some of our blogs that we've written in the past so you can even dive a little deeper. Okay, so first tip, for one, name your argument. So if you're having the same arguments again and again, it can help you get a little bit of distance from that thing that you're doing. Well, from actually being something that's happening to that thing that you have a pattern around that you're doing again. For example, I can talk a lot, and my husband doesn't talk quite as much as I do. I can talk loud. My husband doesn't talk quite as loud as I do. And those have advantages and disadvantages to both. And when we met, we first made each other wrong about him a lot. And he'd say, I can't get a word in edgewise. So we named that one of our arguments. I can't get a word in edgewise. And it just gave us some awareness that we were in a pattern and something to figure out, not just something to sweep under the rug or just hope would get better or just make each other wrong because it wasn't going to go away. So we've come up with all sorts of games over the years to play, including naming it for that particular one. We even have a little hand signal. You can do it under the table or from across the room. If he's trying to give me a loving, gentle signal that he thinks I'm being a little loud and I could talk a little more quiet, he'll do this. And whereas if I think, you might want to speak up right now, I'll do this. And if I think he should be a little louder or could be a little louder, no should, I do this. When Raj and I used to get in conflicts, when he was really stressed, I'd be trying to support sometimes and we'd just be in a conflict and he'd be looking at me as if I was his enemy. And I'd say, I'm not your enemy. I'm not your enemy. So then we changed that and we named that one to I'm your number one fan. I'm your number one fan. But see, go ahead and name it for whatever it is now, but see if over time you can find a more empowering and empowered context to call it, right? Like Raj and I did with I'm your number one fan. We want to play the healthy, fun games that bring us closer together. But the games I'm talking about are about lightening up, even with conflict, not being so significant, getting and just having it be the fabric of who we are, that we're an awesome couple and things aren't always easy. And we're going to work through it and we're going to bring play and habit so that it's not so much work, right? Okay, so the first one, name your arguments so that you can have some distance, see the pattern, and bring some play to it. Now, we've retired that argument. You're talking about repeat arguments. I'm giving you some tools to retire some of those. Raj and I have been together 15 years now. Hard to believe. Just yesterday, my dad was over, and my dad said, look at you two, 15 years, and you're holding hands for no reason at all. And Raj looked at my dad and he said, for the best reason possible. So bringing that play, bringing that positivity, even after 15 years, these are the results, right? We don't indulge in our reactions, or certainly I shouldn't say we don't indulge. We rarely indulge. Sometimes we all get worn down and tired, but it's over that time, the first, first 18 months of being married were the hardest, really. But we were smart enough to say, and uh, adult enough to take ownership of our own upsets. So we weren't going around and round in circles. We did plenty. I will not pretend that we didn't for years. But finally, when we said, okay, this is not, we stopped blaming each other, which brings me to my next tip here. We gave up our right to be right. We stopped blaming each other and started taking ownership. We stopped saying, okay, well, based on your behavior, I'm going to justify my behavior because of what you said or did. And really, we want to anchor in that you're always responsible for your own actions. You want your behavior to be dictated by your character, not by your beloved's behavior. That's a reaction and not healthy. Now, you're human, you're human, but you want to look at, are you justifying being human and it being understandable, or are you really building a muscle and a habit and a practice and a culture in your relationship? Yeah, just that whole idea of human versus helpful. Human versus helpful. I say it all the time, just to acknowledge the reality of your frustration and your feelings and how all of that must be, and to validate those. Those are absolutely important, but they're not the end all be all. And hopefully, the end all be all for you is the results and the relationship that you have. How can you stop that downward spiral? Stop blaming each other. It's okay to be human, but be human in healthy ways. For example, I have a coaching process called Venting for Victory, and I just have a new couple coming to me right now. And starting a vision right now would not be very helpful. There's a lot of upset, but instead of getting it out on each other, they're going to do a session individually with me. And ultimately, by the end of the session, I get them to ownership and compassion and identifying their feelings and their needs and their requests. And it's a great habit that I even do on my own when I'm in conflict with Raj. I hold on to the handle rails and use the tools. Right now, I'm sure I've talked about it every week, but my favorite is the ownership, the OCC. Take ownership, express compassion, and come up with new ideas creatively on how to move forward. Next tip, your character. Already talked about that one. And reaction, bibto, one of my favorite tools. So when you're in conflict, especially if it's been a conflict happening again and again, this is a game to play for couples that are really committed to having a awesome couple culture. You know, what is the fabric of your day-to-day relating with your beloved? And do you resort to little subtle digs? Are you sarcastic? Do you diminish each other, expressing each other's needs? Or are you excited when you hear a need and looking for how you can help that need get met? Are you looking to be responsible to get your own needs met? So Bibto is all about assuming that your beloved is a genius, and it's genius that you chose them. There's no accidents. And from that foundation, that when they have a disagreement and they think one thing and you think the other, that there's actually some real beauty and truth or lessons, even if they might be painful lessons from your beloved. And you want to embrace those. John Gottman, one of my favorite relationship researchers, he talks about embracing the influence of the other. And guys out there, that tends to be a little bit more difficult. That's a huge generalization there, so forgive me for that. But women tend to take into consideration just whether it's socialization, nature versus nurture, or who knows, but there's a little bit of a advantage or disadvantage for this coming more naturally or not naturally. But then everybody is different as well. So for you, just look and see, are you able to embrace and lean in for synergy, looking for the good in your beloved's perspective, looking for the opportunity in your beloved's perspective, even when it's different from your own? Is there a hybrid, not a compromise, but synergy? What's the best of both worlds? And they might seem like total opposites, but see where you can make some chocolate and peanut butter. So that's bibto. Both is better than one. I've already mentioned your couple culture. So really just look at, is it about this argument? Is it about how you're having the argument? Do you have, like my husband and I have a once a week habit, and then once a month we have a longer summit where we check in about our relationship goals and money and calendar a bit, but at a more top level. We have habits in our couple culture, daily habits. Right now we're playing, it's the season of play, and we're playing a game around kissing. We played a similar game in the season of peace, where when we take a shower together in the morning and when we go to sleep at night, we give each other a kiss, and afterwards we say play. And for the season of passion, we said hot. And for the season of peace, we say forever. It's been fun games. Make up your own games, right? Just this is the fabric. What is the couple culture? And if you need support, get support, whether that's another couple or whether that's a couple's community. You can also get coaching, of course. I mentioned the Venting for Victory that we have. More importantly, is the creating a shared relationship vision, or we call it a For Better Love marriage map. So create one on your own. We have a do-it-yourself version, we have a guided course version, and we have a full limo ride supported version. So whatever one works best for you. I encourage you, be intentional about the culture of your coupledom, right? Your last but not least, purposely. So every year, Raj and I create a word made up of two words to be our inspiration and our guidance and our anchor and the wind in our sails. Can you be an anchor and the wind in your sails? I guess so. Bibto, right? Synergy. We're looking for both. And then what we do is we take one word from play, peace, or passion, and we rotate. This year happens to be a play year. And then the word that we brought in just organically, new for the year, was purpose. So we came up with the word purposely. Makes us feel like superheroes when we're taking on our relationship conflicts or our business goals or our health goals or our family goals or whatever goals you may have. So create a word for yourself, whether it's for your relationship, whether it's for the season, playing this, like we are playing the season of play, season of peace, season of passion. Make up your own seasons, make up your own words for intention. So for us in general, not just making up this word, but I want to invite you to play in this one, purposely. Bring purpose to your arguments. Stop chasing your tail. What do you want to get out of it? Are there specific goals that you have? And are those goals taking ownership? Are they showing compassion? And are they generating creativity? That's a good checklist before you make any suggestions. Now, we do have some programs on communication, and we'll talk about that. I think next week's topic is how to keep the fights clean as it starts. So, just as a fight is brewing. So, we'll have some tips in that realm. I want to point out that we have a lot of blogs based on some of the tips we talked about today. So, you can go to forbetter.love. There was a great one on this topic by Thrive Global this year. It's called Love by Design. So we'll put that in the links, and you can also just search for that. Some of our blogs this year, Eyes on the Prize, Not the Problem, is another great invitation or inspiration towards leaning in to loving better for what you want. There's one called Why Better is Better Than Longer, Lasting Longer. Yes, something like that. And the power of a proactive partnership and designing for delight. So that's all on the forward focus. Now, for these repeat arguments, as they're brewing, stay tuned for next week, as I said, for the questions. We'll pull out from the group of questions that are coming in and find something in the topic. Thanks so much for being here and for leaning into loving better. I appreciate your intention. We all need a world with more intentional coupledom cultures, and bringing more play and purpose, more purposely to their relationships. So good for you. And please pass this on. We'd love to continue to support more couples, and let us know how it's going for you. Reach out to us or just comment here. Take care. See you next week.